just go to be creative, to put any kind of rules and regulations to the side and to just be whatever they want to be for that week. And they get creative, they bring creative, flashy things, but there's seekers there. Well, anyway, if you're like us and you're off the grid, you get called to these places and you start getting excited about going with a group that loves God, that you're unified with, to go touch the lives of those seekers that are just, they're putting a week aside to just find out what is going to happen, you know. So we're there in 2 big huge tents. There's about 21 of us, and I happen to be in I'm staying in a caravan, and that's, should I tell that part of the story about
You
the
should
car?
tell the whole
Okay, wow, okay. Okay, so this is cool. Okay, so okay, so it was my job to look for a bus because we needed a bus, because once people get to Reno, they need a ride into the desert. It's a big deal. So I'm looking for a bus, and a bus doesn't appear. So I go to the leader and I go, a bus is not happening on Craigslist or anywhere else. And I go, how many seats do you need? And she says 7. And so I go, well, my husband just about 2 weeks ago said that we could use his old work van. It's and she said, wow. And I said, and it seats 7. So I guess we're free to do that. And she says, yes. So we go, and I pick up my dreads friend, dreadlock Mark, you know, and then my other friend Whitney, and we're headed towards Reno. And in about Mount Shasta, the transmission starts going out, and that's not a good thing, right? But we know prophetically we're supposed to be there. It's green light every way, so we don't have any room to kind of be fearful. So what it sounded like was an airplane. So like Mark and I would say, we're on an airplane now. We're no longer in a car, right? It's and so all the way from Mount Shasta to Reno, we're kind of on 2 gears, you know. So we get there, and that's a big deal to not have transportation to get to the desert, because most people don't even fly into Reno because there's no cars, because there's, if you think about 50 to 70,000 people going to the area that all need transportation, it's hard to find those places that will even rent to you. And so we're there, and I had a dream about 3 nights before, and it was in the dream, it was a Nike store, and I was looking for the right shoes. I was looking everywhere, and finally I bump into the owner of the Nike store, and he goes, I own the whole store. You can have access to every single one of these pairs of shoes. Take your pick. So it was like an encounter type dream, and it was like, that's odd, you know. I'm friends with the guy who owns the whole store, so of course I'm thinking that's God or whatever, you know. So now we're in Reno, and our transmission is blown, and so our leaders, they were off trying to figure something else out, so they gave Mark and I the job the next morning to go find out if somebody can fix our car, and if our van, and if not, to go find transportation. Well, that's like a miracle, you know, that you need. And we were both kind of saying, okay. And so we drive in this crippled car to a couple car mechanics, and they say, yeah, it's a blown transmission. You're going to need about 7 days to give it to us to fix it. So I go to a couple places and find out where can we even rent a car. And the guy said the only place in town is Rent-A-Wreck. That's the only, because they're the ones that will rent you a van like this. And so we go to Rent-A-Wreck, and they're not open yet, and so we call them, and so we're there, and the lady says, we have a long list of people that need vans from a year back. A long waiting list, so good luck, you know, with that. But I do have a mechanic that's coming in a half hour. Well, we're looking at this place, and we're saying, this is probably as good a place for our miracle as any. So we sit there, and we just say, I think our miracle might happen here. What do you think? And so we sit there, and so the mechanic comes. We talk to him a while. He goes, I have a friend who can do this, and he's coming to town later this afternoon. And I said, does he have a van for us? And he goes, well, I will give you my personal van. And he says, I'm the owner of this store, this Rent-A-Wreck. And I said, "You're gotta be kidding." And he says, "Yeah." He goes, I said, "Is it big enough for us? Does it have 7 seats?" He goes, "Yes." He goes, "Just empty your van into my van." And he charges us like $5.50, and it should have been like $1,300, you know. And it was just like, this was our miracle. It was just like this crazy thing. And so then I call my husband to tell him, you know, "You're gonna need to do a transmission, and you're gonna have to pay for this van." My husband is saying, "Lainey, don't worry about the money. It's taken care of. Let that be the last of your worries," because he knows that I'm kind of the financial worrier, you know. And he goes, "It's done." And he had been busy for the last 5 months, who knows why, and the money was flooding in, and he just got this hilarious thrill off being able to be there to help our team and to say, "Don't worry about the money." So the grace was there. So that was the beginning. And so now our team is in Burning Man. So what month? It's like September, the beginning, yeah, September, yeah. Okay, so then the other story that's cool, and then I'll let her talk. Okay, so I'm now in this caravan that the owner of Rent-A-Wreck gave us, and that's where I have my little bed, and I brought these little curtains, these little white kind of little airy curtains so that I could dress inside of there, you know, and they're all around, like about 7 of them. And one of our neighbors that are like Elf and all sorts of friends we found, she showed me about how you take, when it's really hot, it's very hot in the daytime because it's a desert, you take this, and she put a towel around me that she had put in ice water and put it around my shoulders, and it was so fantastic. I said, "Oh," and then I thought about my 7 little curtains, and I said, I could greet, and I'm really into essential oils, and I said, and I have lavender and eucalyptus and all my peppermint and and I'm like going, "Oh my, this is amazing." So I have all these little containers with ice water, and I'm dipping them in all the different fragrances. And the parched people are coming by, and I'm the greeter, right? So what happened, it turned into becoming just this amazing supernatural thing, because they'd be walking along or on their bikes, and we would spray them with different essence, and then I would say, "Would you like to come into our space, into our place, our sacred place?" And then I'd say, and then they'd come in, I'd say, "For a lavender talith," and talith is he that dwelleth in the secret place shall abide under the shadow. So instead of saying covering, we said talith, and then I would say in ancient text, there's a verse that says, "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." This is a talith, and you're under the shadow of the Almighty. Well, they love that because, so they would sit there, and I had 2 long ones for the ladies that were scantily clad, you know, or naked, or, you know, they would come in, and that would just come and cover them, so that when I would usher them into the next tent where there were the teams of people to minister, they would have a covering, and it was just like the best of all worlds, you know. And usually they would sit there for about 10 to 20 minutes, and then I would say, "And here's our little board. Would you like to look at something that might be something?" And almost a menu, and it would be heart massage, or mother and father blessing, dream interpretation, hope for the soul, you know. And they did not know what hit them coming in, because once they sat under the talith, they were actually under the shadow of the Almighty. Each one of us had 10 people praying for us back home. So you have 20, you have 200 people praying and interceding and getting words of knowledge, and there's a covering over it. So we really are in a place, a tabernacle, where God is leading people our way to come in. And so that was the talith, and it was just powerful. One particular couple, they renewed their vows, and the leaders came to me and said, "Could we use one of your taliths?" You know, because they want to go back to Israel, and they want this to be a souvenir of their renewed vows. And I said, "Oh yeah, I think I could probably spare one of these." And at night I would put the curtains back up, and I would have all the fragrance of the encounters of the day before, and then. So that was one exciting story, and we have some pictures, but we have story after story after story like that, and each time we go, we come back with stories of salvations, and yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So when we go in, we often, we go in, we say we go in low. We go in low. We go in without an agenda. We go in, our goal is not for salvation. Our goal is to be a drop of water through the thirsty, and just, if you look at your own life and how God brought you into the kingdom, it was a series of events. It wasn't just the one thing. He used a series of ways to lead us. And it was this person, what somebody said, it was this way somebody loved you unconditionally. It was that way, a dream or a vision came to you. And it was just different ways that God began to show you, I'm real in your life. So what we do is we position ourselves to be a voice in their desert that says, God loves you. God knows you personally. God, the Creator. We use different terms like Creator and Spirit of Truth. And so I'll share a story. There was a young girl that actually came to Lainey, saw Lainey. Oftentimes, Lainey has these great eyes, and so the people in this kind of culture, sometimes they really look in your eyes. They look deep in your eyes. And you have to be comfortable with that, because they'll stare into your eyes. And you have to be like, I'm an open book. Come look. See the Creator in me, And so Lainey uses that because she just lets people look in her eyes and they're drawn to her. And so she'll just start talking to them and they'll be like, yeah, So she started a conversation with this young gal, and then Lainey decided who should work with her. And so she came up to me and she said, Jody, this girl's ready. This girl's ready. You kind of start to get a feeling like, is this person just going to take a little drop, or are they ready for the, And Lainey's like, this girl is wide open. And
for salvation.
Yeah, for salvation.
Give her heart to Jesus.
So I got to go.
Where are you now?
We're at this is an event called Body, Mind, Spirit that is in Portland. It's it's kind of a convention, like a trade show type thing, or people come in and do their trades, and they'll have psychics there. They'll have some people that do essential oils, massage. They'll be selling their wares. It's kind of and it's done inside of the Coliseum, right? Convention Center, and it's twice a year. And we go twice a year, and so this girl came up to Lainey, and I'm in a tent, and she calls me over and says, we're going to put her over with you guys. And so we got to work with her that day, and it was amazing because she was so ripe and ready. And what we do is we don't tell them, we don't use the name Jesus unless the Spirit really tells us, because we go in undercover, and we were there every year and sometimes twice a year, and we really like to have a covering. And so we just let the Spirit, if the Spirit has us go that way, we go that way, but we don't just offer it out there.
Well, there's a lot of nicknames for Jesus, and so we use all the nicknames, but not the Jesus bomb, just because so many people have been offended by the church,
Yeah.
So, think about in the Bible, all the names he has, and we just get full access to every single name for Jesus.
Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but when I came to know Jesus, I had a personal vision, and I saw him face to face. And I was in a church, and I saw him face to face. And there was something about seeing him face to face and him revealing himself to me, and nobody else was involved. It was just him and I. And we kind of like that for people. When they come in, there's something about him revealing himself to them apart from us. We're just there to kind of open the heavenly space for them to receive. And so oftentimes they'll start to see Jesus, and they'll really not even know what they're seeing, and they'll say, who is that? And so this is a situation that happened with this girl. We brought her into the tent. She was ready to receive Jesus. And so I was like, okay, Creator, help me be able to lead her that way. And so I said, are you ready to ask the Spirit of Truth to lead you in the way that leads to life? And that covered the way, the truth, and the life, right? I was revealing the way, the truth, and the life to her, and she's like, yeah. And so she was just crying, and she just, I just I just said, invite the Spirit to come into your heart. So she said, I just invite the Spirit of Truth to lead me in the way that leads to life. And so she's having this amazing encounter, and we're like, okay, does she know who he is yet? You know, we don't really know if she knows who he is yet. Our leader kind of says, don't tell them until, you know, the Spirit really tells you, you know, let them find him. And so I was waiting and waiting, and finally, you know how you're kind of whetting somebody's appetite for him, and it's like, she's finally like, who is he? Who is he? And I'm like, okay, Creator, help me. And I said, well, some call him the Prince of Peace. Some call him Messiah. I said, some call him the lover of their souls. I said, some call him Jesus. And she goes, oh my God. She goes, you guys won't believe it. She goes, I was watching television today, and I was watching, television guy, what's his name, that has the big, huge church. What is that guy's name? Joel Osteen. She goes, I was watching Joel Osteen, and I said to God, if you're real, will you show me who you are? And so here we are, and we're like, you did? You know, like, whoa! You know, and so it's like, I kept waiting, and she wasn't as much as in tune, like some of the people come in spiritually, they'll see Jesus, and they're like, I'm seeing Jesus, and we're like, yeah, Jesus, you know? They say it, well, I'm seeing Jesus, but she wasn't quite getting that, and so finally I had to tell her who he was, and it was just like hilarious, because once we told her, we were all like almost a little over the top, like we kind of try to be like low key. We were all like wanting to dance around and rejoice, and you know, we were doing dances in the tent, and because she was just so like just childlike and ready, and yeah, it was just amazing.
So recently we have a fresh story, and we go to this place called Chelsea Sanctuary, which is owned and run by some beautiful Christians, but they do alternative healing. Well, they do healing like light machine, light therapy, right healing, ionized baths, biomats, and it's really good for any kind of patient who has tried to go the regular route and is trying to come to alternative. Anyway, I'll say that real fast. But so we've been going every Thursday, and we found out that lie busting is kind of the menu item that's really working in this venue. So there was a lady I was talking to just about, 5 weeks ago, and we start conversing, and I find out she's very much alternative seeker. She has all the lingo for it, and a really, really great, awesome lady with a lot of energy. And I realized she's at a crossroads in her life, and we had just, my two friends, Jody, Cindy, and I have been just talking about that we're collision experts that morning. So I said, you are so fortunate because there's collision experts on the premises right now. And she goes, oh, collision experts, did you say? And I said, yes, and I have a skilled friend who will help you with a live bus session. And I said, you're ready, aren't you? And she said, yes, I'm ready. Are you kidding? And I haven't even asked Jody's permission. I just know Jody's heart, and she'll drop everything to go help. Yeah. And so she's going, what was that, collision experts? Yes, I'm so colliding. And so I go to Jody, Kathy Coffee, you know, she's ready, she's over here. And I said, and she's ready to give her heart to Jesus, I can tell. You know, she's just right there. And Jody goes, okay, well, I think I have my papers, I think I can do, you know, she's just all ready. And so they go upstairs off to a room, and about an hour and a half later, they come out, and Kathy Coffee is saying, I'm a new creation. And so she can tell you exactly what she said to leave her up, but it's just beautiful. And then we'll tell you that she got baptized in Jody's bathtub just like about a week and a half ago. And so all of us and any of us can do this right where we're at if we open up our hearts.
Oh, yeah. So when she came in and sat down, I wasn't sure, if she actually knew the Lord yet, but I kind of wasn't thinking she did yet. So I decided I'll just start the live bust, and of course I'm asking the Creator to help me. And so there's different parts of the live bust. It's kind of similar to Sozo, but it has its several different segments to it. And there's one segment of the live bust that it deals with, after you've done these certain things, is there anything left over that we need to deal with? We call them critter scan. Is there anything still, hanging on around you that we need to get rid of? And we say, do you feel it in your body anywhere, or you see it in the spirit? And so, of course, she was feeling some stuff kind of around here, maybe even choking her a little bit. And so I said, okay, let's just ask, we'll just say, we just command them. We go, this thing around my neck, what right do you have to remain? And so she said that, and she said, they said they own me. And I go, okay. So I'm sitting there waiting on the Spirit, and I go, okay. So I said, okay, Kathy, I said, have you ever given ownership over to the Creator? Because if you haven't given, I said, there's one thing about the Creator kind of being around your life, but there's something about Him being in your life, inside you, living through you. And I said, have you ever done that? Have you ever, given the Creator rulership or authority or, ownership? And she says, no, I haven't. And I said, well, would you like to? She goes, yes. She just said, yes. And so we just went through a prayer, and then when we got done, she said, I can't believe you got me to do that. She goes, I was just in a church last week, and this lady had taken me, and they were like, do you want to make Jesus Lord? And she's like, no. and I'm like, okay, I didn't do that. That was just like, Lainey likes to say Jehovah Sneaky. It was a Jehovah Sneaky, because it was just different. Sometimes with people that have been wounded by all the verbiage and stuff, it's like, you just say it a little differently, and they're ready. You just kind of bring it a little bit differently, and they're like, yeah, why wouldn't I want to do that? And so, yeah. Oh, and then I did 3 libus on her. The 3rd libus, she comes over to my house, and we're like, she's going to be moving away, and we thought, we need to baptize her. We got to baptize her. And so she was baptized as a Catholic, sprinkled as a Catholic, and she's like, yeah, I want to be baptized. So we end up baptizing her in my tub, which I was like, where am I going to baptize her? I'm like, it's the tub, because that's all I have. And so we just had this amazing thing, baptized. I said, you've died to your old self, and now you're a new creation. And so she came up out of the water. She's like, I'm a new creation. And so when she wrote it, she goes, I feel brand new, and I feel everything. She just really had a genuine, experience, and it was precious. Right?
It was precious. And when she was done getting baptized, she goes, I need a Bible. What translation should I get? What do you guys read? I need a Bible, I know, because I haven't really read it. I've heard about it, and I've read little verses, but I want to really read this. And you just knew that there was just great fruit. So I wanted to share another story. I was able to go into an event in Texarkana. Yeah, it's right in between Texas and Arkansas, and it's a funny name. But it was 3 different covens from 3 different states right there that were coming together for a retreat. And I was invited, and I just said, why not? Let's go in big. And so I went with my friend, and it's one of the pictures up here, and we ended up having such a place of favor. Yeah, let's look at it.
My remote broke, so I
Oh,
can climb up here.
Do you mind? Which one of these?
Yeah, that one.
That one? Okay.
Yeah, no, next one. Okay. Yeah, sometimes we'll show you all these pictures. Yeah. Okay, so I'm kind of a little bit nervous because I've never been to a witch camp, before. But we set up our little tent, and we end up our ministry tent, and we have the menu board. We end up to be right smack in the center, in the best prime location of this retreat. It was just like they come up the hill, and there's our tent. And first we have our little heart massage and hope for the soul and dream interpretation. But we start getting bolder each day, and then we say, "Are you thirsty? Are you thirsty? Come in." We start saying. So that's me there. Those are the tents behind there, and then do the other one. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
That's her. So we're dressed kind of,
take it off.
in the little the feather
Oh, there it is,
earrings
did it?
and the this
Oh,
kind
I
of
don't know if
thing.
that's better or,
Okay.
is that better? Or what?
Okay, so let's say that this is our tent and it's facing this way and all these other tents are kind of facing in. Well, this tent is the one I want to talk about. Late that night, came this tent late at night, they were kind of drunk, and there was a lady, and the best I could describe her, if any of you have seen Honey Boo Boo, you know, so she's like that. She's just loud, and she's been hurt many, many years, and just from a child. So anyway, whatever. So she is angry, and she's just saying foul things, and shouting, and yelling, and she's mean, and we're like going, who is this woman, you know, that is just so angry at life? And on and on and on. We heard her all morning and through the night, and we're just like going, oh. So then we go to our tent, and we're having our meditation time, which we call it. It's prayer time. But we try to kind of use their lingo, you know. We're sitting there, and I start just getting a compassion for her, and I just start weeping for her, and I realize, wow, what she went through as a child. Like she just didn't have a chance. A lot of molestation, and I just get this words of knowledge that, and as I'm crying, I'm realizing, oh, we're going to be able to minister to her because God has touched us both with the heart for her. And so as we walked by her tent, I was able to just kind of say hi to her, and then I said, I just want to say, I saw what happened to you as a child, and I'm so sorry that you had to have that life. Whatever I said, it was really tender, and she looked at me like, oh, you knew. And I said, it happened at a very young age, didn't it? And she went, oh, you knew. And so then I came back, and her heart was immediately softened. And then she said, I'd love to come into your tent, but I have no money. See, a lot of times we charge just because we want to look like everybody else. If we give everything free, we'd look like, you know, it would give us away. So, yeah, and so we do it where we say you can trade on our floor. You know, I'm a greeter, and I'm really good about knowing the ones that, I don't want any of the money, really, right? And so I'm perfect at it because it's like, don't give me money if you don't want to, but trade into our floor, because a lot of times if somebody puts a seed in, then they'll get something in return. You know, it's so anyway, she said, I don't have the money. I said, I don't think it's about that. I think if this is your weekend, it'll happen, and Danette has that kind of heart. So we end up taking her away by the lake, and Danette does a masterful job at bringing her all the way from a child into this healing. And this lady was transformed. I mean, and she started going from calling it goddess to calling him God and saying him. And she says, why am I calling it him now? You know, and she just had a revelation of Jesus. It was powerful. And all I did was look up at the birds, and I didn't really do anything. I just carried space. And it's really beautiful because we do what we are comfortable doing. And when somebody else is doing the work, then we can just be there. And so you don't have to be everything. That's why we're a team, you know. And so she came out of there radiating. She was a changed creature. She gave her heart to Jesus. And I'm like going, God, you know, brought us way from the West Coast all the way to Texarkana for her. And there were like about 4 others that really got impacted that weekend. They had intense, well, okay. So then later she found some money, and I'm standing there with Danette. Danette did all the hard work, right? All I did was connect her and love her. But I had that intercessor's heart for her. She gave me $10 and said, I want you to have this. And she gave it to me because, you know, so all I had to do was be touched by the Creator's love. And she knew that, and that drew her in. So, but anyway, at that particular camp, they had like a belly dancer with a snake around her shoulders. And they had relay races on broomsticks, and they had a labyrinth, which that's not a bad thing, but that, you know, whatever, the labyrinth thing. And it was just like, this is really intense to be here. And here we are, reconnaissance, incognito, going into their camp, seeing people set free right under they didn't even know what was happening. And we were having salvations and freedom. And so God is good, you know, to be able, yeah, it's really.
Who invited you to that?
Well, Danette had been to Burning Man and had become friends with these, what they call themselves witches. And she really is able to go in there and become friends with people without them even knowing what she's all about. She has a special gift on her life. And so she had gone and visited them at their house and just really had favor. And they were part of kind of the leadership team of that group, and they invited her. And it was favor, it's Jehovah Sneaky, you know. So they had their little tie-dye booth, and we're there, and then people look at them, and they know that they like us, and so they say, oh, well, they must be good because they come with them, you know. And so we you know, God just has different ways of doing things.
I have a question as you go to this. At one point you said at the Portland Convention Center you brought someone into the tent. Are we talking about a...
I can show you the tent.
Yeah, we have tents in these pictures.
Yeah, I can show you the tent. I'll show you the tent in a
Is
second.
that your
I'll wait
question?
for the tent. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, so I want to tell you about these two girls, Hannah and Darby. So one day Lainey was at one tent. We had two tents at this particular event, and we were on different rows. So I was in another tent, and Lainey was at another. She was greeting, and I was greeting at the other tent. So, but Lainey happened to walk over to our tent right when the situation happened. So I'm standing there, I'm kind of practicing, because I'm greeting, and I'm like, I'm trying new things in my spirit, man. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just letting my light shine. I'm just sending my light out. You know, I'm practicing this. Like, okay, Lord, I know I'm big in the spirit. I mean, we're not, you know, this is a body, but we're spirit beings, right? And so I'm learning how to do this. I'm like, so Lord, I'm just uncovering now, and I'm just letting my light shine. And so in my spirit, I'm doing this. And I look over at these girls. It was Hannah that I saw. And right when I saw Hannah, I'm like, oh my God, Hannah's supposed to be in the tent. And I'm like, she's supposed to come in here. But I really didn't know how to get her over here. And I looked over to Lainey, and I was going to say, Lainey, because Lainey's really good at this. So I said, Lainey, she's supposed to be in the tent. And then the next thing I know, I didn't even get that out of my mouth. This girl runs. Okay, she was over at this other table looking at soaps or something. And she sees me, and she runs to me. And she throws herself into my arms, and we hug like we were best friends. Or, you know, we're like, she's my daughter, because that's how it felt like she was my daughter. But it was like, so she's in my arms, and I'm like, oh my God. Okay, Lord, is this what happens when you let your light shine? Because I'm like, so, because this is just all happening really fast. And I'm like, okay, so I'm holding her, and I'm just like, oh my God. So I started to tell her about our tent. And she doesn't even know what our tent is. She just saw me and ran in my arms. And she says, I feel like I know you. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. You know? And so I just start talking to her and getting to know her a little bit. And, you know, what are you guys doing? And they're just really young girls. They're like, I don't know, really young.
17.
Yeah, just teenagers. And so I'm thinking to myself, what are these girls doing here? I want to get them out of here. You know, because this place is a high, you know, it's like, okay, let's get these girls. And so she's talking to me, and they got to go somewhere. And so she's like, we're going to go, and then we'll come back. And I'm like, okay. So she goes, and she comes back, and I was at this point, you know, greeting. And so when they came back, our leader said, okay, Jody, you can go into the tent and work with her. And I'm like, oh, good. You know, so I went into the tent, and we invited them to come in and sit down. We worked with both of them together. And they sat down in our chairs, and we just started ministering to their little spirits. And they invited the eternal. We said, you want to invite the eternal white light into your pure white light in the spirit of truth into your life. And they're like, yes. And so we did that, and I had a vision of seeing like scales falling off of their eyes, and I shared that. She goes, that's what's happening. And they just said they felt like light, like they said they felt like light went through them. Yeah, they felt like light went through them. And so it's like we're in this place with them, and we're just ministering to their hearts, and they're crying. And when they come out of it, they open their eyes, and they look around like, we forgot where we were. They said they forgot they were even at this event, and that they were you know, in our they went into a bubble of encounter. That's what they did. And so it was so awesome. And then they came back and saw us later on. They went away, and then they came back, and they said, "You guys, you don't realize it, but you've changed my life."
Wow.
You know, and we're like, oh. We're like mamas. I'm like, "You guys are my kids," you know. And so then they came back the next year. They came back again, and we saw them again, and it was really just they were in a hurry and they had to go, but they came back, and we've texted and talked like that. But it's been really cool.
Let's show them some more
Okay,
pictures.
then you hold that while I did that.
Okay. Okay. Well, while she's doing that, we like to say that we go into the highways and the byways, and so we try not to say no. Okay, this is Dreadlocks. Dreadlocks.
That's
Mom.
Scion.
Yeah, he's Scion. He's the one that we had the miracle with the van, you know, and Jody. But this is one of the encounter tents. We make it beautiful, and so there's the three, and she's the one in the hot seat.
Yeah,
And there's another one.
that's our tent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
And we
Oh.
have prophetic art sometimes, and so people will come up, and that's one of the things on the menu board is prophetic art. And
Do you call it prophetic art?
we call it, what do we call it? Every time we kind of actually we kind of sit and we find out what is going to be on the menu board, so every time it looks a little bit different. But we would say healing artwork, or we would say,
Encouraging art?
yeah. And no, sometimes we might feel like it's okay to say prophetic art, but we try to come up with our own language, like not their language and not Christianese, but something in the center. So we're always making up we're looking at our thesaurus and
Yeah.
getting new words. So yeah, spirit. This guy, he was definitely impacted. He was one of the ones. Yeah, Dirk. And yeah, that's kind of what it will look like. This is a prophetic. This is an eye. We had that in the center, and many times this is what happens. We have long embraces because these people are so impacted at such a deep level, and sometimes they don't even know how deeply they were impacted. We find out the next year, and the next year we find out kind of what their journey was and how it was a shift in their whole life transition. Okay, that's another one. Oh, this is Burning Man. So this is obviously me, and we're on a big art cart, and doesn't that look like fun? It's a lot of fun. Yeah, those are the three of us that went together in the van that the transmission blew. So that's on the way back. And that's,
Pause there for a minute.
okay, this is Burning Man. So these are all the 50,000 people all around, and this is our main tent. And then back here is another ministry tent. So this is where we would bring them in, and they would be walking along, and we bring them in, and this is where they had their talith on them, sitting around in the sacred place, you know. And then back there would be the other, and then we had a big kitchen here, and then all of our tents around here. So it was,
About how many people did you change it? Usually, I don't know what you call it, a setting or?
how many encounters did we have through the week? Well, Burning Man, we have more because it's like a week long, and so I would say maybe we have like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 teams going on at a time, and then maybe 5 to 6 hours a day. So yeah, I'm gonna say maybe, I don't know.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, every time it looks.
But they're long, you pretty much stay busy.
We stay busy, and sometimes when we're not busy, that's really a gift, because we know that our hearts are being prepared and we can touch one another's lives, and then it starts getting busy. But yeah, I'm gonna say maybe, Burning Man, I'm gonna say like 100, you know, and then and then we might, I don't know, maybe not 100, maybe 50, I don't know. But all I know is that these people, they leave there with a feeling on their face like they go, we just got zapped. Like, what was that? Like, that's the last thing we expected. They don't know how to they don't have a grid for us, you know. And another thing, my husband and I really have a revelation of the blood and the importance of the blood of Jesus. And so that was like tricky to me because I'm like I'm going into these festivals, I know all about the love, but how about the blood of Jesus? And you know, everybody knew I had a reputation of always trying to bring the blood of Jesus into it. How do we do that? The blood of Jesus. So I came up with congealed light. And I found out when I wanted to talk about the blood, I could say congealed light, and they were fine with that. And then, you know, every once in a while, I'd say, let's just go ahead and just cover this with congealed light, you know. And they would say congealed light. So every once in a while, you'd say, what's that? And I'd say, well, like, you know, body, soul, spirit. In the natural, that would be blood, but in the spirit, it's congealed light. It has the same kind of sense about it's what was done by, and you know, and then you just come up with a prophetic kind of like you have the Trinity and you have the Father and the Son and you know Yeshua, and you just start kind of ad-libbing it, and then somehow you found out what the background is and you fit it and you retrofit it to what they can have. But what you don't want to do is get a wall to come right up. So you're saying whatever you can as far as you can. Until that wall goes up, and then you just pull back a little, and then you just bless them with the Creator's love and send them on their way, you know. So, yeah, that's one of the tents at Body, Mind, Spirit.
We're setting up there.
Yeah, we're setting it up. We have, like, these chairs that we bought at IKEA, and a lot of times it'll look like a bridal chamber, because that's in our heart. It's the heart of the Father, you know.
So, okay, as at this point, that I'm curious. Are you curious? Are you into this? We can go at it a couple ways. One is that we can say, hey, let's hear more stories because we like hearing about what Jesus or the Creator or whatever is doing in the world. But we may or may not actually do this thing. Or we could be like, tell me more because you're coming back and I'm going to be in your session and we're going to Ashland or Portland to do this. So,
Well, I know, you know, for us at Epic, we usually do something, we take a team somewhere once a month. Not necessarily like this, but minister in different churches or places like that. So we're very much into outreach, doing things like this. So I have some questions too that I wanted to ask.
let's get into questions. I guess I have. You said IKEA, and I know how much it costs to rent one space and a floor, but it looks like you guys are renting like 4.
No, it's 2 10x10s. So each time we do a 10x10, it ends up to be about maybe $600 to $700 to rent. And so let's say we have 2, so that's $1,400.
Right.
So what we've done is we've got the radical forerunners that have got involved, and they said, we want to be involved because we are so unhappy staying home, not doing what's on our heart to do. So we are willing to pay whatever you ask. We will pay $150 to $200 to go minister, and then we'll just like give everything possible. So when we go in there, we give out, you know, and then we still get money coming in, and that helps for airfare or whatever. But we don't care. We want to be used, you know. So with these Body, Mind, Spirit events, it's a little bit more just because of the rental of the spaces. But when we go into like Mystic Garden Party, it's less money, and we're finding out that we can do this when we don't fly in leaders. When the leaders were gracious enough to train us, and then they go do their thing, and now we're trained, and we can do this. Those of us in Portland there's been a transition, and we're connected to this place from Ashland, this church, Somebody's God Church, Ron and Jan Timon, and they are Doors of Perception. So now we're under kind of like their 501(c), Doors of Perception, and then there's a group in Salem that kind of want to connect with us. So, you know, that's what we're doing, but we're all about multiplying. So we're about passing the torch and saying, you do what you need to do. If you want to join us, that's fine. If you want to communicate, we're all part of this because God is on the move, and He has people in the highways and byways. So,
Ron had a question.
yeah, he has questions.
Yeah, I just have a few.
Yeah. now's the time.
Yeah, I know, you know, we were doing a prophetic ministry to business and sisters, and when we started, we called it spiritual readings, and the Christians just came against it, so we ended up having to call it prophetic, you know, Christian terminology, and that was really tough for us, because we wanted to reach the new age people, you know, and so I guess one of my questions is, when you go in there, do you notice how much the Holy Spirit helps you to not speak Christianese and to not, you know, to blend in? He's got to be helping you a bunch.
Yes, definitely. It's like, it's amazing how much he helps you with that. I mean, even saying he sometimes, it's like, some of them don't have a hard time calling, you know, he, they want to say she. So we end up using words like spirit of truth, eternal creator,
Bread of life.
Emmanuel, yeah, and we'll talk about white light, okay, because a lot of these people are seers, and they very much see stuff, so it's like, we talk about light, okay, there's this white right here, you know, and then there's all different kinds of shades of white, and we talk about white light, and we talk about the
Pure
brightest, I said, when we talk about eternal white light, we're talking about the purest form of light that you can even imagine, almost like you can't even look at it. Yeah, and then we talk about how that light doesn't just blind you, it comes through you and loves you on a, you know, on a level that's like beyond your imagination. So we kind of like teach them about what we're talking about when we're using these different verb, you know, language and stuff.
And
So
you slip up once in a while.
we do slip up.
Yeah.
And
And somehow I've slipped up, and it's funny because it's like they almost don't even hear it.
that's
It's
awesome.
like, I've noticed that, I'm like, oh, nobody caught that. And I'm like, well, of course my teammates did, but it's like, yeah.
So, have you guys, kind of along the same lines, that have most of the churches that you guys have talked to, or I don't know, the connections you have, welcomed it, or has there been kind of a...
Yeah, I would say there's been kind of a, and it's okay because it is what it is. But the cool part is, like, okay, I have my sister who I love her. She's somebody's got pastor in Florida for about a church of about 1,200, you know. And her and her husband don't necessarily get this very much. And so it's funny. My very close sister doesn't even get what I do. Although I tell her, and sometimes I even put them on my prayer thing, and because sometimes God says it's time to tell them, and then it's time not to, you know. Well, so I had a dream about 2 years ago where I'm actually delivering this baby. I'm like a surrogate mother, and it comes out, it's this beautiful baby, and I hand it over to her. And
Awesome.
I'm joyful that I get to give it to her. And I knew it was that I'm part of birthing this, and it's going to go back into my sister, the church's arms, and that there's going to be a day when they're ready for this. And we're going to be just cheering them on as we give it to them. And we can say, we worked out some of the kinks, and here it's for you. And I get goosebumps when I say that, because I love it. I love it when we don't have to have turf wars, and we don't have to, this is not our own thing. And the more hidden, the better. Like, I had a dream recently where I was not invited to get a facial. There were all these ladies that were in this little group, and they were all going to go up for a spa day to get a facial, and my name wasn't on the list. So I said, my name wasn't on. Was that an accident? They said, I don't know. And I said, well, it must have been an accident. Well, then I go to the lady in charge. I said, could you look at the list and see maybe why I wasn't invited? She looks at the list. She goes, oh, you're taking care of the children, you know, the newborns. And I said, oh, well, do you think maybe I could be on that list because I really want a facial, you know? And she goes, let me go check. So she leaves and then comes back and says, no, we can't make a change on that. You're taking care, this is your job. And so then I wake up and I go, what was that? And I was kind of excited to go, what is facial? Because I love kind of going into my dreams and going deeper. And facial, and I looked it up on Wikipedia, and there was this lady with a mask, you know. And I'm like going, there at the party, they all are wearing a mask, everything looks like everything's okay, and I'm not allowed right now in this season to be part of that big show of looking like the big, strong Christian, you know, that has... I'm off in the hidden room taking care of the newborns, and you know, and birthing the surrogate, you know. And I had another dream where that somebody plopped this little kid on me. Now it's 2 years old and it's just like ready to go, and it's like this thing we're birthing. And so I'm honored that God would say, you know, I love bring the children unto me. You know, that's His heart. And so sometimes we are hidden, and we would be misunderstood if the big church knew that we were going into a psychic festival. They'd say, these people are messed up. But we happen to know because we have prophetic dreams, we have the fruit, we have salvations. We get into that giddy peace pod that I call it. We just like, oh, we get to be in where the heart of the Father is. And regardless of whether the big mega churches understand us, we know that the time will come when there's going to be just that radical shaking where they're going to be going, we want to know. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like it's this next generation. I get prophetic dreams. I see pictures of the kids of the mega churches. Because we were real close to our pastor, and I used to when I would bring my kids to church, I would bring their kids. We were their neighbors, and I have a heart for those kids. I get dreams all the time about these kids, and I go, oh, it's that generation that's coming up that they're just ready. They're not gonna be satisfied with the old wineskin, as it were.
That's right.
And then we get to just be so happy. Those of us who maybe God has called out for a season to do radical things, we get to, and I just have such a heart for the church at large. In Oregon and Washington, the Pacific Northwest, just huge things are happening.
Amen.
Yeah, I know that we know that.
Yes.
I'm curious, the story that I told you earlier about
Yes.
what happened at Chelsea's, that place I know comes under attack often. And you guys are going right into the enemy territory, not as enemies, but as lovers. But you seem to walk away unscathed, and I'm just curious why, how? Because I know Chelsea's is also doing amazing things. So why is it? What do you think it is? What's the difference? You don't seem, I don't hear anything about, oh, that was a close call, you know, the enemy was really attacking us. It's like you're not
Well, I
even
think-
seeing it.
Yeah. I think we all go through personal struggles, even, I mean, getting to an event is, I mean, I know I've gone through sickness, and I've had to, like, lay out on the chairs during the thing and just kind of go in and minister and then come back and lay out on the chair. We go through stuff like that. Amy has a daughter she could tell you about that, you know, that she struggled many times.
Well, let me just say that it's interesting that you say that, because it's kind of a love-hate, or it's kind of a bittersweet what he brings us all through when we're doing this and on the cutting edge. And so my personal story, the 10-second version, is my oldest daughter, who got a full ride scholarship to Stanford to be a yeah, she's just like the smartest person I know. Full ride scholarship, $500,000 scholarship. And so she's there, and she kind of has a little health problem, and so comes home for 6 months only to go into a full-blown psychotic break. And so for the last 4 years, we've walked alongside her while she's had this intense bipolar psychotic stuff. Well, when she's at her worst, she's like demonic is taking advantage of that Asperger's part of her brain. And so she's just like, when we're in the thick of going into the ministry, she's like a dragon. She's saying, I'm a dragon. And she's looking at me. It's almost like the gates of hell have come into my house in the form of my oldest daughter, you know, and just just said, you will not do this. I'm a dragon, and I will take you down, you know. And so what I do is I thank her for her journey, because while in the 4 years that she was at her worst, I was going into the prison every week. I was going into 10 different of these festivals. I was on, every time the enemy would hit back at me, I would hit back at him somehow. And our marriage got stronger, my husband and I would thank her for her journey. I would say, thank you for your journey, Anna, because I would hold on for dear life and just come right over the circumstances and just say, you know, we're not going to let this get us down. And so I would say, when the enemy comes at you, you just say, do you know what, I know what to do. I can just go and, so she's doing well right now, and we're doing well, and we're being prepared. And sometimes when circumstances are all against you, that's when you're being processed and the roots are going deep, and it's exciting. But also, one time my husband was praying for us, and right across the street from our business, we own a picture framing business, there was a big dream catcher up in the tree. You know, and he sees that, and he doesn't think it's an accident. He goes down and pulls it down and throws it in the garbage, you know. And we have little things that they might try to do. And then, I had a dream a few days ago where there's this Middle Eastern guy across the table from me, and he's looking with these scary eyes, and then I have almost like this blanket of darkness come on me, and I go, oh, and in my sleep, when I wake up, my husband heard me going, oh. Well, anyway, the next scene of the dream, I take him by the scruff of the collar, and I bring him down, and I say, your days are numbered, like this, and he's diminished, yet like he was trying to intimidate me, and I think sometimes we get pictures of the enemy, it's like he shows his hand, you know, and we're able to say, oh, that's what's happening, yeah, I knew something was happening, and your spirit just rises up, and you just say, your days are numbered, because we know who we are, and whose we are.
And I gotta say something about that too, because we build our faith and our strength too in the Lord. And as you do these things, you get stronger. You know, when I first started, I would have meltdowns. You know, it's like, pray for me, I don't know how to make it to this day. But, you know, now I've kind of gotten stronger at it. And you build your faith walking through these things, and then you start to come into knowing who you are in Christ, and you begin to stand in that place. And I've gotten to where now, when I go to these events, I'm not afraid and I'm not intimidated by, you know, clairvoyance and psychics and stuff that get in my face or something. They're, you know, you can see they're, you know, sometimes you can see the demonic stuff just like looking at you, trying to figure out who am I in the face of right now. And, you know, I've just learned, I'm learning to let my light shine, and that light does something. I can't even say, but I stand in who I am. When I go in there, I say, I am in Christ and I'm hidden in Christ. And those that need to see me will see me. Those that don't need to see me will not see me. And so I'll just get into this place, and I'll just share one little tiny thing, because I know you guys probably need to go. But I had a night one night, because I've been practicing my seeing gift too. And so one night, I went to bed after an event. It was a body, mind, spirit event. And I laid down and I was exhausted. But immediately, I see all these, I don't know what they were, but I don't know if they were people, what do you call that, astral projecting? I don't know if they were astral projecting or if I was actually seeing spirits. But I had all these spirits or people coming into my face, checking me out, and they'd hover and look at me. And then I'd see another one, and I'm just laying there, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm just going to go get into my pocket. And I've learned that there's a real place, and it's inside of God, and it's a secret place. So I'm just going to step in my pocket right now, and I'm going to go to sleep. Because I don't, whatever these things are doing, they're coming to check me out, because I've been letting my light shine. They're coming to see who I am. And I just went to sleep. Next morning, you know, nothing. But they'll come and kind of, you know, check you out, because they're like, what? Who is this? You know, because you are letting your light shine there. And they're kind of baffled, because what is this light doing in this event, right? They don't know who you are. You think they know who you are, but they don't. But they're baffled, and they want to come check out who you are. And you just have to learn to just know that nothing, this is my motto, it's like, Jesus made things clean, and the unclean could touch him, and he would not become unclean. The unclean touched him and became clean. So when I go in there, I don't think if they touch me, nothing's going to come on me. You know, and I've seen people touch them and stuff come on it because they don't have that. They haven't built their faith up in that yet, and we've had to pray it off of them. But when somebody touches me and they try to pass something on to me, I don't have this receiver thing going on. I'm not receiving that. I'm actually here. So I had one time, I had a psychic guy or somebody come up to me, take my hands, and he wanted to give me what he had. I let him, and then I gave him what I had. You know, because I know whatever he has is going to fall to the ground, and what I have is going to actually produce something. So I don't, you know, you kind of walk in that place where you learn because you have to. You learn because you have to. You know, when you're in the thick of it, you're on the front lines. You learn because you have to. You got sick, or you let something get in, or you got in a fight with your husband, and you're like, next time that is not going to happen. I'm gonna learn a new method on this, right? So I don't know, you guys.
Yeah,
timing-wise.
and when you know that you're called, and you know that God has called you, then you start saying, okay, God, I'm willing, now you're gonna have to do what you need to do. I had a dream about 5 years ago, that it was a little lizard with a little neon tail, and my job was to chew it, and the poison went into my mouth, but I couldn't swallow it, and that was the key, and it was like, no, I don't wanna do this, yuck, you know, and I'm chewing this little lizard. The next scene is the little lizard is by a river, and it's giving his heart to Jesus, and so then I go, what? And so I look up lizard, and the little baby lizards have neon tails, because it helps them it helps them survive, you know. And so, and then I don't ingest it, like I don't take it in, but even just having it close by, it almost makes me immune, like what you're saying. There's an immunity that comes by almost like taking in the call, understanding the mandate, and being willing to go in. And so there's a immunity. Well, it reminds me when I was on my way to Burning Man, I was in an elevator with and he says he was a Reiki master or something. So I'm looking at him like, okay, cool. And then he says, come here, hold out your hands. So, you know, I could be thinking, no, don't touch me. But I'm like going, I'm huge compared to this little guy, you know. I'm like 3 different blocks. And he's trying to like show me his stuff, and I'm not even curious, but I'm just like going, for some reason he's wanting to show off or whatever. So then I put out my hands, and he puts his hands on them, and he goes like this, and I feel, you know, and I realize, and what it showed me is the vulnerability of people who want that, and then they feel it, and then he says to me, I have a spirit guide named some Wolf or something. I will share him with him. He can be your spirit guide if you want. So he's showing off his stuff, and then he's offering me his spirit guide. I said, of course, I'm like going, little do you know that I have the spirit guide of all spirit guides. And I said, no, that's okay. I'm good with the Spirit of God that dwells in me. And, you know, or something like that. I said it, and he looked at me and he goes, don't you realize I'm offering you the same thing that I just showed you? And I'm like going, I'm good to go, you know, thank you. And I leave. Well, I didn't ingest it. I didn't take it. I didn't research it. I know what those Reiki, what they do is they move energy, you know, so big deal. So they moved the energy. He learned how to put the energy into my hand. It doesn't mean he's powerful. It just means he's kind of skilled at what he did. You know, we're all made in God's image. We can do intense, amazing things. But, yeah, none of these lure me. Yes.
You were talking about asking someone if you can bless their path. Can you give an example of a prayer that you would pray to bless somebody's path?
Are you the one that said that?
Probably. Well, their spiritual journey, I'll say, you know, bless their spiritual journey, or bless, you know, it just, okay. I'm led by the Holy Spirit, so I drumming it up right now, might be. But I'll just say something like, can we align you with the Spirit of Truth? Can we align you with Prince of Peace? And they'll say yes. And so I'll align them with the Spirit of Truth. And because sometimes they want their chakras aligned or whatever. But anyways, we just align them with the Spirit of Truth, and with this, you know, that the Spirit of Truth would lead them in the way that is for their journey, and that they would hear the voice of the Eternal One, and that they, you know, I'll pray something like that, you know, that they would be led, and they would know when it's the Creator speaking to them, and not some other, you know, entity or something.
Yeah.
I don't use that word, but
It's amazing what they let you do. You know, you say, would you say yes to the Spirit of Truth? Do you want the Spirit of Truth to lead you in your journey? And they, most of them, 9 out of 10 say yes, they want the Spirit of Truth. Well, they don't realize what they're asking, right? And so they're taking it from us, and we're just like doing a little zap, you know, Spirit of Truth. And you never know what they're going to be like in a year when they've let Spirit of Truth in.
yeah.
So don't you think we should wrap it up?
Yeah, you guys feeling is Ron?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ron, you said that you had several questions, and you asked one. Is there one more question that you
You know, I was just curious about, you know, when you go in, you have a session with somebody, is it typically an hour session that you do, half-hour session? How do you regulate that?
Well, we do receive, people do pay for the sessions. And the reason why we do that is because we would stand out really strangely if we didn't charge. Because all the psychics and readers charge, and so if we
Can I
didn't,
add something to that?
yeah.
Also, we found out in time that they put a value on what they pay for, and it's just the human, so if you say, we're $10 and everybody else is $60, they're gonna go to the $60 one because they put a price on, you know. So we decided, we need to up that to put some value, and this is really hard for those of us who wanna give all. It was hard for me, for 2 or 3 years I bucked up against it, but
Well,
then.
and that's why we charge people to come tonight.
Yeah, well, it's a weird way of thinking, but it's almost like, we go into their camp, when in Rome, do as the Romans, you know?
Yeah.
We just go in there and then we take that money that they're doing and we don't use it for our own stuff, we do it to do more stuff. And so we're using their money, you know, we're going into the
Yeah.
treasures of darkness and bringing it into the light. And
Yeah.
so,
And so it's what they can afford. So if they say they can only do 15 minutes or whatever, this is what we do. We start out with whatever they say they got. They're on a limited time schedule. We go with that 15, half an hour, an hour. And then we just let the Spirit kind of lead, and we never shut it down. Like, okay, if they're going, you know, an hour.
Sorry, lady, you only paid for
Yeah.
15.
If something is happening, we're like, we got them, right? Let's not stop this,
Yeah.
right? So we just kind of like, we just go with the flow.
but as the greeter, I'm able to go in there and realize, I can just kind of tell these guys aren't really going anywhere fast, and so then I'll go time, because I know that there's like 16 other people waiting on the list. Because we start getting really like busy, and people start talking about us, and we end up to be the hot commodity. We're like, we're like cool. We're like, we got it.
The waiting
We're on
list,
the
yeah.
edge. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in having us come and pray for them, and also put a basket down, because whether you want to or not, I want to invest in a share in that tent. And so I'm not sure quite the best way to do that, but I kind of think that if we gather.
Anyways, fine.
Put a basket.
Pretty
Thank you.
easy. Yeah, we'd love to pray for you guys.
Oh,
for
I think
sure.
I'll get
And,
that too.